Unmuted. We're live. All right, let's go ahead and get this meeting started then. This is going to be a Lake Stevenson Council meeting, and we're holding it live down here in the mill as well as online Zoom, and this will be published later on our YouTube site. It's July 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And with that, I'll call this meeting to order and ask all the right for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, okay. All right, with that, if we could get a roll call.
Councilmember Daughtry.
Present.
Councilmember Peter Shagan.
Present.
Councilmember Donahue.
Present.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Present.
Councilmember Jorstad. I do believe she's absent tonight. Councilmember Ewing.
Present.
Councilmember Tagent.
Present.
Get a motion. to-
Move to excuse Councilmember Georgetown.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to excuse Councilman George said. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll move forward. Council Vice President Peter Shagan, we get an agenda, please.
Yes, you have an agenda before us tonight. Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second on the table. All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye as well. You have an agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. So with that, let's go to, I don't see any guest business on tonight, so let's go to citizens' comments. And we'll take citizens' comments both online and as well as in person. Do we have anybody online who wishes for citizens' comments?
Not seeing anybody. So again, I have 3 people online. If you'd like to speak to the council, if you can raise your digital hand, I can bring you into the meeting.
Anybody?
Nope.
Okay, so with that, let's move forward to those in the audience, and let's start off with Jeannie Peter Shagan. And we ask you to go to the podium, name, address, and 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Petershagen. I live on Vernon Road here in Lake Stevens, and I'm excited at the opportunity to present to you a community engagement event that we are hosting at Aquafit on the Family Fun Sunday from 10 until noon. We are going to be highlighting the amazing canine officers and their handlers. Ours, Sia, will be in attendance with her handler and several others. And we've had the opportunity to host a couple of training exercises with these amazing officers and see them in person. And so I've learned such a great deal about them and what they do, their differences, whether they're drug dogs, apprehension, which means they can find missing persons as well as find the bad guys. And so I thought, we need some things for Aquafest, so let's try something new. And so bringing out to the kids these training exercise, Mayor Gailey and Snohomish County Sheriff Adam Fortney, they're going to MC and talk about the animals as they're doing their training exercises. We're going to have a canine vehicle for people to sit in and take selfies, pictures. We are going to have Venaccio Coffee has donated Fur Missile coffee for the event to give out samples. We'll have some for sale too. Those benefit the Snohomish County Canine Foundation and their funding. Funding is something that I hope that everybody learns because it's not just provided by the municipalities. And we have some goodies on your desks. We have, we're giving out the bracelets with a little paw print, My Friend the Sheriff coloring books to kids, and just making it a really fun event. So feel free to let me know if you have any questions. We're going to be handing out frequently asked questions as well, so people can learn more about these amazing officers and what they do for our communities. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Thomas Snow.
My name is Thomas Hall, 1822 73rd Avenue Southeast, Lake Stevens, 98258. Some of you might recognize me from last year. I moved in Lake Stevens in 2022 on July 1st. Well, after 4th of July, I came up here to the first meeting and I spoke in front of everybody again. Well, nothing's changed. I have video. I have a guy trespassing on my house. I have video. We passed out all these papers to the people across the street. Know what they did with them? They rolled them up, threw them in our face and spit at me. Spit at me. I'm a Vietnam combat veteran. I have no respect from her. She's a single mother living in a house right across the street from me. Every year, I never talk to her all year long. 4th of July, I have a problem with her. She has friends over that light all these bombs off and stuff in front of my house. This year, there was a new twist. They were shooting Roman candles off at my house, out in the street, holding them, shooting at my house. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. 3 times I was out there in the street, and 3 times they threatened me. My wife come out with these papers, they rolled them up, threw them in her face and spit on her. I live down on the southeast side of the hill, facing the highway trestle to Everett. The houses are 20 feet apart. And from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the morning, they're throwing bombs up in the air and bombs in the street. My dogs don't even go outside because they're scared. I gotta put papers down in the house and they're already housebroken. Something needs to be done. I'm gonna come back to this meeting on the 11th. I'm gonna talk at the 18th. I'm gonna talk about the same thing. You're gonna hear me again. And if I gotta come back next year, I'm coming back with my lawyer. And I'll sue this city. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of it. Got 3 cops on duty for 40,000 people. My wife called them up the other night. We'll make a drive-by. Well, she sat up to 1:30 in the morning. No cops came. Last year it was 3 o'clock in the morning. We called them. No cops came. They're inundated with this stuff. These are pyro freaks. They're not celebrating 4th of July anymore. They're teaching the kids, 7 and 6-year-old kids, how to blow stuff up in the street. Enough said. I'll be back if nothing's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nom. And.
Hello, Nick Poulos, 29th Place Northeast, city resident. I moved down here, and in fact, I think most of you know why I moved down here. I moved down here to serve the city. I'm city employee, proud to be employee. I'm now taking off my city employee hat, and as a resident, and a gentleman who is well past 45 and have celebrated the 4th of July in many towns and over a third of the states in this United States, I am shocked and I'm horrified that a city, something that calls itself a city of 40,000+ people, would put their cops, 3 or 4 of them, who were all we could field on duty that day, into the mess that you allow by allowing fireworks in this town. It needs to stop. We have people setting off 60-gram+ mortars. That is a mortar that needs a safe landing zone of over 300 feet. Figure out where in this town you have a piece of personal property with over 300 feet. That doesn't exist. Launching it from the center of a cul-de-sac does not get you 300 feet. And this is getting worse as we go along. Because guess what we had on June 9th? County of Snohomish instituted a burn ban. We are dry enough that residents without garbage service cannot fire a burn barrel. But yet we're wet enough that launching pyrotechnics, unsupervised, untrained, and unmanaged into the air is the problem. The reason I haven't been here that long, I've been here a few months. From what I've been able to piece together, the reason this is occurring is because the city has chosen to not host a display. If you look, Marysville hosts a display. Arlington hosts a display. It gets really interesting if you look back at the air quality numbers. I think after the fires last fall, you guys are fairly knowledgeable about where air quality numbers mean. So city of Lake Stevens passed 400 for an air quality index. That is toxic to humans. You do not go outside, you do not breathe it, you do not do anything. That is the top end of where EPA starts giving you guidance. You go up to Marysville, they top 200. You go up to Arlington, they were well under 200. Again, this is air quality impact from people on other people's property, involved in infringing on personal property rights, and it has to stop. The city of Lake Stevens needs to grow up. You're no longer a city of 4,000 people on the margins of the urban rural district. You are a full-fledged municipality. Act like it.
That's
serve
3
your
minutes.
people.
Exactly. Okay, that's all the citizens' comments I have in front of me, so let's move to council business, council vice president.
Thank you, Mayor Gailey. Last night I attended the Historical Society, had a program last night, kind of interesting. They've cataloged and have been the recipient of some, I believe it was about 300 letters from service people during World War II. There was a gentleman in town that took the effort and was able to send out information to the folks that were in the service and let them know what was going on back home in Lake Stevens. And so the letters went back and forth and such, and very interesting hearing some of those personalized letters last night. Again, they're cataloging and putting those on display. So, you know, when you talk about heroes, those are the guys, and a lot of guys paid a huge sacrifice for what we have today. So those things need to be recognized. So with that, it was a good presentation, and I applaud the Historical Society for doing that work. So thank you.
I also attended the Historical Society last night. I was pretty impressed with that. A couple of them brought tears to my eyes. It's you know, it was pretty incredible to hear some of the guys that went to war, World War II. And I know of some of those names because, you know, we've been talking about some of these guys over the years, especially those that put the war memorial together that used to be out over there. And it was pretty impressive. And then one guy put this newsletter together and sent it out to everybody from Lake Stevens throughout the world during World War II. And that was pretty impressive. And they didn't even know who it was for a while. It took them a long time to figure out who was doing it. So I thought that was pretty impressive. And the museum people that are putting this thing together are doing an excellent job. And it's a labor of love for them. And they're getting to, it was funny, they said that they were getting to know these guys, and they were calling them their guys now. People they've never even met. Some of the family members were there that were reading some of the letters from those people. It was pretty interesting. The other thing I have is on the 4th of July, we had our 4th of July downtown here last 4th of July. On a side note, it was my 48th wedding anniversary. Yeah, I lost my independence on Independence Day. And we had a lot of people down here having a lot of fun. I played Simon Says, I think 15 times with the kids out in the middle of the North Cove. It was a lot of fun. What was really interesting is one of the times I was running a bunch of games, you know, we did the traditional games like the egg race on a spoon and those kinds of things. And it was really weird is the black egg never fell off the spoon. I could never figure that out. But the last time I ran those games, there was a bunch of East Indian people here, adults, kids, a bunch of them. And every one of them played those games and had a blast. I mean, it was really fun watching. We had a little bit of a language barrier, but once they figured out what was going on, they just went at it and they played every game. It was just every game. So we had a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll do it again next year. This is our second year of doing it. The chamber put it on and we'll see what happens. Other than that, I had a community transit board meeting. we're getting into the details of our electric buses or hydrogen buses, whichever ones we decide to go. It sounds really like we're going to do both. So that's interesting things are happening. And we also have a report coming out soon from the committee here in Lake Stevens that's looking at the different way of doing transit here in the city. So that's ongoing, and we're going to get a report on that on the 20th. So that's it.
Nothing to report this week.
Okay, it's my turn. All right, well, I always have to write everything down, so you know. I did see the library design right here in this building last week. I cannot wait for that to get started. As anybody that knows me knows, if it says library, I'm Mary's all about it. I attended the workshop on mission, vision, and value statement. And I can't wait till we come through with that, because that was very interesting and a great group of people that came together. Thank you, Mr. Ryan, for being there. I just got to do a shout out for Gary O'Reilly, who is Rotarian of the Year. And if you know Gary, you know this is a shining example of Lake Stevens for sure. The Friends of the Library is getting ready for Aquafest. Yes, they are. And we hope it's not going to be too hot. Can you do anything about that, Councilmember Godfrey?
I've been talking to the guy.
Okay. It's not happening. I did go to the Historic Society presentation last night. Also, Homefront News was their group, and it was just amazing to hear the stories. And yes, it brought tears to my eyes too. Thank you so much for doing that. It was good to see. Well, they already said they were there, so never mind. Let's see, one more thing. Oh, I know what it is. I went to the 4th of July, the Chamber of Commerce old-fashioned 4th of July, and I will not do the dunk tank. Councilmember Daughtry, I will not do the dunk tank, but it was fun to see him at work with the kids. It was great. So some positivity here, and don't we all need that? That's it. That's all I got.
I just wanted to make a quick comment about our law enforcement. I had some contact in the community with a prominent business, and one of the things they said, and we weren't even talking about law enforcement, they spontaneously noted how good it is to work with our police officers and also with our mayor who supports law enforcement. Lake Stevens is the 67th safest city in the country, according to a national publication. So it's one of the safest cities in the country. Doesn't mean we don't have our problems, which we do. But I love that there's people out there supporting events like the K9 and that recognize that public safety is a top priority and which makes the city a great place to live. And I just want to remind the public that the defund the police movement is still very active in our community. It's surreptitiously being done. And I would just encourage each person to think about how we can support public safety and what that means to each person, regardless of other factors. Public safety is a very top priority. So thank you, Mayor and Chief Bezos, for your staff for supporting public safety.
Sure. Parks met yesterday. The water tower ribbon cutting is Thursday, the 20th at North Cove Park at 1 p.m. Sunset is got their bid approved, and they'll be closing Sunset Beach on July 31st. And that's going to last for about a month or so. Music in the park tomorrow. And I think our life rings came in today, and those will be installed around the beaches and so forth.
Yeah. So most of you probably got in the mail the newsletter from the school district. I just wanted to point out that one of those pages had the 20 top academic people, students on there. And 6 of those students were on the Youth Advisory Council, which I thought was pretty impressive. So I started looking at the list and it's like, wow, I know that one and that one and that one. And that's pretty impressive.
Great, appreciate the reports. I'm gonna go ahead and forego my business for tonight and go to city department reports. Gene.
Yeah, first thing I wanted to bring up to council is in the next week or so, Caitlin will be sending out a doodle poll survey to question us when we would like to have our fall retreat. And what we're planning on doing is looking at the date we had last year and throw out a few days before or dates before and dates after and see what works best for the council and the department directors. So you'll see that coming out shortly. And then I'll go to Barb, I think is the next report.
Great, thank you. Can I share my screen? Make sure I have everything up here. Okay, so I wanted to do a quick update for mid-year for the council before we get into your council hiatus. So this is the 2023 mid-year, which takes you through June. So the first thing, let me get rid of my team or my Zoom. So the first thing we want to look at is all of the funds. This is citywide. So overall, the city ended June 2023 or the mid-year with a fund balance of $66.6 million. In the chart below the graph, you can see we have the 2023 budget numbers, 2023 mid-year, and then we're comparing them to 2022 mid-year. We have the budget versus actual for 2023, and then the comparison for mid-year 2022 to mid-year 2023. So you can see here our mid-year revenues have increased by 21% over the prior year in 2022, and expenditures have increased about 15%. Overall revenues are about 49% of total budget, so just under, but we do have a lot of grants and things that are budgeted. So and then expenditures are at 30%. Again, we have a lot of capital projects that have not taken place. So looking at citywide revenues, this chart graph here shows your actual mid-year revenues to date, not budget. So right now, taxes actually make up 45% of the citywide revenues. Those made up our property tax, sales tax, utility taxes, REIT, and now the new transportation benefit tax. Your retail sales tax is at 49% of the budget. Construction sales tax are at 58% of the budget. So construction sales tax, they do come in definitely higher during the summer months. So we'll be looking at an increase in those, and then they'll decrease again in the later months. Utility taxes are at 61% of the budget. And so those are actually the higher ones are the electric and gas. So we'll start seeing some more electric, and then that will taper back off, but we do expect those to come in a little above budget. And then, as I mentioned, we received the first payment of the transportation benefit tax at about $118,000. We have notified both the project manager and engineer that we can go ahead and get started on bidding those design and that side of things. So they're going to get moving on that. Charges for services, they make up so 16% of the expenditures right now. 70% of this is actually stormwater fees, and they're at 52% of the budget. So pretty close on. We actually receive the stormwater fees from the property taxes. So we get the most in May and November. And so we'll see another jump in those in December, but we won't see much activity until then. And then miscellaneous, I don't normally mention the miscellaneous. It only makes up 7% of our current expenditures. But this year, investment interest makes up 81% of this category, and interest rates, as you know, are really high right now. It's a great time to have investments. And so our interest is at 121% of budget right now. So we are actually at 99% of budget in the general fund, which means we expect to receive nearly an extra $500,000 in the general fund, about $1 million overall, just in investment interest this year. So we are plugging that into our future forecast at this point. I did include in your packet that is not in this slideshow, a graph on the federal funds rates. They kind of correlate with our LGIP, which is what we invest in. In that chart or in that graph, you can see that from 2022, beginning of 2022, the rates were about 0.25%. And then by where we are right now in 2023, we're at about 5.25%. According to the analysis, it looks like they expect the interest rate to go up another 0.5% this year and then start dropping back down in 2024 and 2025. So we have that, we are working on that into our forecast as well. So looking at our mid-year comparison from 2022 to 2023, sales tax have increased 12% over prior year this time. Stormwater fees and utility taxes have both increased 9%. And then the real estate market, we know, is slowing down over since 2022, 2021. REIT is only at 38% of the budget, so that has decreased 48% over last year. Building permits have also decreased, and impact fees, which is park and traffic mitigation, those have also decreased about 39%. So these are the ones that will impact our capital projects. So we need to keep an eye on those and really make sure we're prioritizing capital going forward. And as I mentioned, investment interest has increased 1,400% over prior year at this point. It's really high. So it's really good for having investments right now. So. And then looking at our citywide expenditures, again, reminder, these donut circular charts, they actually show the expenditures to date and the percent of expenditures to date, not the percent of budget. Personnel costs, obviously that's always your largest portion. But the graph underneath shows you that capital is actually the largest portion of budget. So personnel is the largest portion that we've spent to date, but capital is actually the largest portion of expenditure budget. So personnel right now, we're at 42% of our budget. So as you know, we are slightly under budget as we would expect, as we don't have all the positions filled. It has increased 20% over the prior year, just to cost of living increases, the COLAs, the market studies, and additional personnel added in some of the departments. And then capital outlays make up 36% of the budget, currently only 8%. Obviously, we haven't started many of our projects, as just reported. Some of those are coming in soon. Services are at 56%, an increase of 60% over prior year. Some of that is some of the design that goes into capital. And then interfund includes transfers out, that equals your interfund transfers in. So. And that is actually all I have right now. I was going to work on providing you with a general fund forecast just to kind of show where we were when we started. I could not get my stuff to balance today, so I didn't want to put it out there. So I'll work on that for next week and see if I can present that to you next week when we kind of talk about budget schedule and that sort of thing. If you have any questions, I know that's really high level. There's a lot more information in the packet that I provided, which for the audience that is online on our website as well, you can get that through the finance. Look up finance and you'll find it there. Oh, look, it's my dog. Sorry. Let me see if I can stop sharing my screen here. Thank you. I'm like, can somebody take that off of there?
I don't know, that was a better picture.
I know. He's a baby. Anyway, if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions for Barb? All right, great. Thanks, Barb. Appreciate it. Any other reports? Okay, with that, can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda? So moved. Second. I got a motion and a second to pass the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes. Thank you. Let's go to action item 11 alpha, police wellness grant.
Thank you, Mayor. Council and Mayor, tonight we're presenting $100,000 reimbursable grant given to us by Criminal Justice Training Center. This grant allows opportunities for officer wellness and staff wellness. We have come up with a 4-tier approach of trying to give better wellness towards our officer and support. One of the things we're looking at is law enforcement coaching. This is an opportunity for mental health coaches to mentor and train officers how to be more resilient in the field and dealing with the day-to-day stresses of our job. They're actually looking at both of our new recruits who are going to be attending the academy and working with them throughout their career of developing and being a mentor to them. We're also looking at what's called True Heart Family Services, which another is an opportunity of mental health benefits and support for officers in a timely manner when they're dealing with the crisis that we see on a daily basis. We're also working on a wellness room and opportunity in the future for a gym. This opportunity will help us reimburse $100,000 towards this opportunity. We asked for $191,000, but we received only $100,000. We're just asking you to give the authorization to the mayor to sign this and get us into this opportunity to be reimbursed for this cost.
And I'd like to, I think we need to thank in there.
Yes.
Bill Bassett and Olivia. worked-
And Anya,
And Anya did a lot of.
legwork.
So,
Yeah.
great stuff. Olivia's already paying for herself, like grant person. So I think we need a motion here.
I would move to authorize the mayor to sign the grant agreement, which is attachment 1, which outlines the fund allocations.
Second,
Yeah, a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Good work on that, chief. It's very important. Let's move to 11 Bravo ordinance number 1168. Providing for exclusion of persons from city parks for misconduct.
Thank you. The city internally has created a task force to talk about parks and specifically to discuss our park usage and identify ways to reduce vandalism and disorderly conduct to ensure parks are family friendly and enjoyable for all. Through our meetings, staff identified that there is currently no way to exclude individuals from parks for misconduct. Through that, the police department and the parks department worked with the city attorney to create ordinance 1168 that is attached to your packet today. This would amend chapter 1003 in the Lake Stevens Municipal Code, which is the parks ordinance essentially. This will allow police officers and park staff the ability to exclude individuals who knowingly violate park rules and laws. This would be a progressive approach where, of course, we'd educate, make sure people know the rules. We're creating new park rule signs currently in-house. Progressively, the discipline would be 30 days exclusion, then 90 days exclusion, and then 1 year. Of course, serious criminal offenses and weapon usage could go straight to the 1-year exclusion. So we propose this today to amend the ordinance and give us the ability to ensure our parks are usable for all. Does anybody have questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple, or at least one. So I know I observed one time that one of our police officers excluded somebody from the park. Didn't have any teeth in it?
I can defer.
So, yeah, it has teeth in it, but it's a certain standard, right? So we can only give them trespass notices for a certain time. This allows us to have a defined time of trespass, so they're very aware of it. We can give them 1 month, we can give them 10 days, 7 days according to that law. So this helps us just more define what their expectations are as if they get excluded from the park.
Okay, thank you.
So, excuse me, Chief Azizos, I'm just reading this, if somebody violates this exclusion, they may be subject to a felony. What happens to that person if they, what is the penalty?
Well, it would be, they could be charged under the criminal code then for either first or second degree trespass. Second degree trespass is most likely because it's a trespass outside of a building. First degree trespass is trespass, but it would be, if they're cited under our code, it's a misdemeanor trespass. We had some discussion about juveniles, right? Because some of the problem people in our park are in fact juveniles. They would be processed through the normal process through the county prosecuting attorney's office, and they would go through the proceedings at the juvenile hall. But again, they would be charged under the state criminal trespass statute, which is essentially the same as ours.
So can you give me some insight as to what happens to a person if they're convicted of trespass?
Well, a gross misdemeanor is subject to, I believe, a maximum fine of $1,000 and up to 1 year in jail. So that's not likely to happen in most cases, but you could have an extreme situation depending upon the conduct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
What data do we have regarding incidents at the park? And is it park specific?
I would have to
He's out.
see, Jeff Young is out. I don't have any data with me, but this would be for individuals who continue to violate rules within the park. We do have 911 calls and reports over the past few months of behavior within the park. I know a lot of that hits social media. But Parks doesn't have a specific data set from this. A lot of what we have is just on our cameras, and we don't have an analyst to sit there and gather that type of information. So a lot of our information is just complaint based and responding from that.
Do we have data for the complaints that have been filed?
Yeah, he's pulling it up right now. He's got to get logged onto his computer, but I can tell you on a daily basis, we get complaints in the parks for graffiti, fights, staying after hours. We have a lot of kids are coming in at 1 or 2 o'clock AM into the parks and hanging out. We had a gentleman that passed away of natural causes out here the other day, and all of a sudden out of the woodworks in the video, here comes 2 females, 3 or 4 juveniles walking over to the gentleman at 1 o'clock in the morning. We know this is a problem both in this park and Davies Park right now. As we develop Sunset Park, we're going to continue to have problems there. So Jeff's pulling it up. He's Excel document. Here you go. I'll let him speak on his data that he has.
And the process with this exclusion is it would be a direct contact with either the police officer or park staff. And we have a 1-page form that we're filling out. So they're personally delivered and know at that point they're being excluded from the park. And so in the case where they're coming back and violating that, that's where that trespass would kick in.
Chief, do you feel like this is a good solution to start out by instituting this? Do you think the police department, your department, will have an opportunity to put kids on notice and perhaps curb some actions?
Yes, it will help us educate the children. We've tried with this already the past couple of years of educating them and developing that rapport with them, and it's not working. We have to have other opportunities to trespass these kids. These kids are coming in from Linwood. They're coming in from Mount Lake Terrace. They're coming in from Shoreline. They are not generally all the time our kids that live in our city. It's the outside people that are coming in. Or like I said, we're seeing an influx of people coming from other cities into our city park now. And we're having a lot of problems with them. We have weapons inside vehicles. We have threats of knives. This is a continuous and an increasing problem that we're seeing.
Great, thank you.
Good evening. So from January 1st of this year to June 8th of this year, we had 196 total incidents covering only 3 of our parks. The 3 parks that we picked were Davies, Lundin, and North Cove, because that is typically where we have the most activity. So with 196 incidents ranging from suspicious to the death, as Chief talked about, we have a number of different individuals that come through the parks and create that type of trouble. So when we were discussing some solutions on how to abate this problem, we came up with the park exclusion, which will give us the ability to exclude certain individuals based upon their behaviors, with also creating some sort of a pathway for them to be allowed back into the park. So that's the reason we come to council tonight asking for the adoption of this resolution of the ordinance so that we can effectuate some of the different safety measures that we've come up with as a team.
Jeff, I appreciate your comments about the folks coming from out of other areas. So do we know why they've targeted Lake Stevens, and if we're the only ones that are experiencing, or other surrounding communities experiencing similar behavior?
All communities are, especially in the parks. I've talked to the Everett Police Chief, Marysville Police Chief, Arlington Police Chief, Monroe Police Chief. They're all having problems with their parks.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1168, providing for the exclusion of persons from city parks from misconduct.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for your work on that, Chief and Greg, and go forth and do great things. Let's move to discussion items. Is this gonna be rough? No, it's going to be. Oh, wonderful.
Well, thank you. Good evening. I'm
Not
Christy.
that I don't like listening to Russ, but let's change it up, everyone.
Well, we'll mix it up this evening. So I'm Christy Schmidt, Senior Planner. This evening, Jill and I were going to be co-presenting the 2023 docket for you. And the last time you saw the docket was back in March. Let's see. I'll see my screen. I'm going to slide you down here. And so for transparency and for the sake of the public, the background and the process for the docket process. And for this particular year, back in February, the Planning Commission had their first introduction to the proposals. Then it moved to the City Council for the briefing on the docket. Back in March, the Planning Commission, they held their public hearing on the docket. Their recommendation came to you, the City Council, where the City Council heard their recommendation at a public hearing, and then you ratified the docket and adopt a resolution. And in that resolution, there was 4 proposals that staff will be presenting to you tonight, the analysis. The Planning Commission was presented the analysis back on June 26th. And I would like to point out within the staff report, I should say that they listened to the staff analysis and they had no substantial comments, and they concurred with the staff's analysis of the proposals. So the process going forward after tonight's meeting is that we issue the 60-day Department of Commerce notice towards the end of June. So they've been notified of our intent to amend the comprehensive plan. The next item is tonight's work session. Then in September, we anticipate holding the Planning Commission public hearing. Well, they will make their recommendation, and then it circles back to you, to the City Council, for the final public hearing and then consideration of the adoption of 2023 docket. So with that, the 4 proposals that Jill and I will be providing an analysis on tonight is a city-initiated amendment for our land use element. Then we have 2 city-initiated map amendments, one for our city-owned property, the Cedar Park property, which is intended for park use. Then the second one is for a private property off of South Lake Stevens Road, and that would be east of the Costco site. The last one is a citizen-initiated amendment off of Lundeen, and that site's approximately 5 acres. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jill for presenting the first proposal.
Thank you, Christy. So for T1, this text amendment was used to update the chapter to reflect some recent changes such as population increases, annexations. The reasonable measures matrices was updated, as well as the buildable lands data, to keep everything really consistent. All instances of tourist homes, for example, was replaced with the term short-term rentals since the pass of that ordinance. So along with the text amendment, there were 3 map amendments proposed, 2 of which are city initiated and 1 of which is a citizen initiated. So the updates in T1 were found to be consistent with the decision criteria in the staff summary. Since these are just administrative amendments, we found that they are consistent with each of the decision criteria found in your packet. So for map amendments this year, we have 3, 2 city and then 1 city and citizen initiated. So when considering these amendments, we analyzed the projected housing and employment, both of which the city has not met the growth target for. Could you go on to the next slide? The first city initiated amendment is for the Cedarwood property. It is an existing 5,000 square foot common use building that the city recently acquired with the intention of creating a future park and community facility. And it is proposed to be rezoned from R8-12 to public/semi-public. Next slide. And there is its location. It's kind of in the middle of a multifamily neighborhood. Next slide. So the full decision criteria again are in your packet, but here's kind of the Cliff Notes version. So rezoning it to public/semi-public creates more consistency with how other city properties are zoned. It was also identified as a park in the city park chapter of the comp plan. So development of this site would be pretty limited by a stream and a wetland that are on site. So the buildable lands report did categorize it as a constant/replacement use. It has a projected job capacity of 12 employees and 12 proposed PM peak trips. And so M2 is also a city initiated amendment. This amendment is proposed to rezone a residentially zoned property on South Lake Stevens Road to CD or commercial district. This property was originally rezoned from residential to commercial back in 2019. But all of 97th was rezoned to residential last year. And the current owner of the half-acre property had purchased it based on that prior commercial zoning district, with the intent to operate a commercial daycare. And it's right across the street there from the Costco project. So the full criteria is in your packet, but the site has a developable area of just over half an acre, and the buildable lands report identified it as having no additional residential capacity. So the Snohomish County is identified Lake Stevens as a daycare desert, with the demand for daycare far outweighing the supply. So additional jobs are projected to be added, and a PM peak trip increase ranging from 2 to 12 trips is projected.
Okay, well, thank you, Jill. So I'm going to take the last one and then wrap it up with our exciting cumulative impact matrix. So M3 is a citizen initiated amendment. This particular proposal, I'd like to point out that the property owner approximately 13 years ago requested a rezone from single family residential to mixed use. They've had the property now on the market for over 13 years. It has proven not to be viable for commercial use, so they came back to the city requesting a rezone back to residential. This particular property is located north of Lundin Parkway. Many of us probably drive by it. And here's the address here, 10311. So the proposal is to change this little over 5-acre site from mixed use to residential development. The applicant does intend, if the rezone is granted, to develop the site with single family residential homes for their family. Taking a look at the site, as you can see here, it's comprised of several parcels. There is a multifamily development over here to the west, and you can see single family homes over here to the east and single family down here to the south, and then the park over here. There's slightly larger lot, single family uses to the north. I would like to point out during the analysis that I'll start talking about on the next page, as you can see here from the aerial, this is critical areas over here to the east. These critical areas flow through the majority of the site. And in fact, they encumber over 4 acres of the 5-acre site. So really, when we looked at our critical areas indicator, this portion of the site where the arrow is and north, that is all wet. So it's a little over 4 acres of wetland. And I just wanted to point that out on the aerial so you could see that. And that is one of the key reasons why we've been told from commercial developers that there's not enough for a developable footprint for mixed use, which is the first point on the decision criteria within your packet. You'll see within your packet, each one of the items had a 4-page sheet or so outlining the criteria and compliance with the comprehensive plan. So this particular one, it's consistent, the proposed zoning is consistent with the residential uses. In fact, the R8, R12 would provide a good transition between the multifamily and the single family. We did compare this site with the 2021 buildable lands, and the area really does have minimal developable area. It's only just less than an acre, constrained by the wetlands. The job capacity, though, for this particular site is approximately almost 10 employees if it were to develop out, if it could, under the existing mixed use. And in addition, the residential capacity is 2.5 units under the existing mixed use development. And I would like to point out that we did find a little loophole in the buildable lands report that it does only say 2.5 units. That's because buildable lands assesses only one level of residential on top of the commercial. So if you were to go higher, obviously there'd be more residential units. That's why that number is so low. The proposed residential capacity under the R8, R12 zone is approximately 8 detached units on the low end and 12 on the high. The results as far as PM peak traffic impacts is approximately 7 trips. So with that, we tried something new this year. We went with the cumulative impact matrix. So you can see all 3 of the proposals. That would be the map amendments. And in here, we have the 2 city initiated ones and the M3, their private property. We compared the existing land use to the proposed land use, the site acreage, what's developable and what's not. So we have buildable acreage here and they're listed. And then as far as critical areas on site, so you have a 1-sheet comparison. And we also have residential capacity to the proposed capacity, as well as the PM peak. So the results of this particular matrix show that all 4 of these proposals have no cumulative impact as far as significance goes for jobs and housing targets. In addition, the minimal impacts for level of service on the city roads. And in addition, the land uses proposed are consistent with the adjacent uses. And the sites are suitable for the proposed zoning and development. And with that, staff requests input from the city council tonight on the analysis, and pending results from this meeting, the next steps forward is that we would issue notices to the property owners. The sites would be posted and notice would go out. And then back in September, Planning Commission will hold their hearing and their recommendation will come back to you in later September. So with that, I'd like to open it for any questions for staff.
So on the M3, the one on Lundin. The new state laws that we had come through this last time, does that encumber that property in any way?
As far as infill development requirements?
Right, I'm talking about like where they're requiring us to have duplex, triplex, fourplex, that kind of thing.
Well, at this point, I don't believe we've had the fallout officially from it, and I'll let Russ speak to that.
So under our current, we don't have the rules to that yet. We don't have the rules to that yet.
So the rules were effective in July. And the city has largely adopted most of the provisions under the House bill of this last legislative session. So we would already allow duplexes, triplexes on this site under specific conditions, and moving forward, as we update our code, that would be also true.
Okay.
Any further questions for staff?
Yeah, I just want to be super sure that the wetland there will not be impacted. It looks like it's not included.
That's correct. And what will happen that at any such time for future development, a critical area study will be conducted by a certified biologist. And that would be reviewed in conjunction with the city's critical area regulations. So any impacts that occur would be within the parameters that's allowed by the code.
All right. Thank you, Christy.
So Planner Schmidt, these 3 properties or 3 properties, going through the docket process, we have yet to do our overall update to the comprehensive plan, correct? And that will occur in 24 and 25?
Oh, yes, our periodic update from the state, that'll be 2024.
24.
We have started on preliminary work with it.
Okay, and so, excuse me. The results of the buildable land study that are being discussed at Snohomish County will be implemented at that point in time, correct?
Correct, in the 2024 update.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Christy? Great report. Appreciate your work on it.
Thank you.
And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. She got promoted.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Very. All right, let's move on. Here, move to executive session.
Could I just?
You can.
Okay, the draft.
Ask Clerk Jelen to give us the executive session information.
Oh, but you know what? I actually have one other thing.
Oh, we have
And it's
something
the
else.
draft agenda for next week.
Oh, we
Could-
do have the.
Could we address that real quick? So just keeping in mind, this is the last council meeting next week, the 18th, before the summer break. You're going to see quite a few items on here that we need to try to take care of before we take a recess. So
So is
have
that a
any
regular
questions,
meeting
let
or
me
a
know.
workshop?
Sorry,
Regular meeting or a workshop?
we're going to make it a special meeting
Special.
because we need to take care of some action items.
Special meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
Because we're special.
that's it.
Yeah.
A couple of those things may or may not happen, but this is what we're working towards this week. Okay. Yep, it's on there. Yep, the batch, yep.
Any questions for Kelly on those items?
I don't know. I'm interested in a couple of them. It's gonna be interesting.
We'll go out with a flourish.
All right, great. So now, for
Mhm.
Jellen,
Would you like me to read the
two
executive?
2003 state clerk of the year, is that correct?
2002, but I'm
2002.
really feeling. old.
2002?
It's 2002.
Could you tell us what the exec session's about, and how long it's gonna?
I can. So tonight's executive session per RCW 4230-110 confidential session of the council is property acquisition and litigation or potential litigation. We won't have collective bargaining tonight. That'll be next week. So I think we're asking for 30 minutes to start. 6:55. Maybe a couple minute break so that we can get the public out of the room and start at 7.
All right, sounds good.
Potential action.
Oh, yes, thank you. Potential action. There is potential action of the council after the executive session.
All right.
Huh? Yeah.
Okay, it is 7:30 and it is 7:30 and we are back live.
All right, great. So we are out of executive session and can we get a motion?
I move we authorize the mayor to sign the PSA for the Chapel Hill property to sell to Cascadia Group LLC.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great work on that PSA. It'll be a great project to get moving forward. That is the end of our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn? So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. Have a great night.